Hello fellow art nerds, welcome back to another video. Today I'll be drawing Piet Mondrian in a cute anime style while telling you some fun facts you may or may not know about him. He was born on March 7, 1872 in Amersfoort, Netherlands. He's best known as one of the key leaders of the abstract art movement, and you may recognize his simple and iconic paintings in primary colors. He was a main figure in the Dutch abstract art movement, de Stijl or the Style. When Mondrian was 14 years old, he started to study drawing. His uncle and his father both guided and taught him what they knew, his uncle attending the Hague School of Landscape Painters at the time. Mondrian was determined to be a painter, but his family insisted that he should get a degree in teaching first. Eventually, Mondrian moved to Amsterdam. There, he exhibited his first paintings in 1893. All the while, he still took night classes for drawing and would often impress his teachers with his effort and self-regulation. For a long time, Mondrian didn't paint the abstract art that he's known for today. At this point of his life, he often painted landscapes and still lifes, where his subjects were usually the meadows and polders around Amsterdam. Often he used slightly duller colors and very picture-perfect lighting effects. In 1903, Mondrian visited his friend in Belgium and experienced a period of artistic discovery. His art had changed when he returned to Amsterdam in 1905. He would mainly paint the Ghan River in Amsterdam, which now felt more structured and geometric compared to his previous artwork. However, his paintings at the time still looked like normal landscapes. In 1907, the Quadrennial exhibition took place in Amsterdam and featured many famous post-impressionist painters. They were known for using bold and bright colors that didn't look exactly like the ones you'd see in real life. Mondrian was inspired by their use of color and quickly sketched Red Cloud as a study the same year. In 1908, his work started to resemble expressionist painters, and this helped him break free from traditional landscape art. Mondrian was heavily inspired by the Luminists, a group of artists who painted light by using dots or short lines of primary colors. Mondrian did the same and limited the colors he used to only primary colors. One of his best artworks that was done with this style was Windmill in Sunlight. In May of that year, Mondrian joined the Theosophical Society, which was a spiritual group that believed that the spiritual world and the physical world were connected. Mondrian was inspired by this and created paintings that started to paint less from life and more from the feeling that objects gave him. This started a trend where he began to paint more forms than actual objects. In 1910, Mondrian's Luminist-style paintings were exhibited at the St. Lucas exhibition in Amsterdam and attracted a lot of attention. Mondrian was also inspired by the Cubist movement. In 1911, he saw the artwork of Pablo Picasso and George Braque for the first time, and was so impressed that he moved to Paris in 1912 to study the style and adapt it into his own paintings. His Cubist period lasted from 1912 to 1917, and his use of geometry would become very influential for his later artwork. In the summer of 1914, Mondrian returned to the Netherlands to visit his father, who was seriously ill. However, World War I wouldn't allow him to return to Paris, so he settled in Laren and met the philosopher M.H.J. Schoonmakers. His work on how to interpret lines and how the universe was made inspired Mondrian's work. With Schoonmakers' ideas, he started to create a set of rules for his artwork, and the tipping point for the style he's most known for was created with composition number 10, Pierre and Ocean. Continuing with this art style, Mondrian and three other painters, Theo van Doesburg, Bart van der Lek, and Wilmos Hussar, founded the Stijl movement. The movement was about using the most basic elements possible to draw subjects instead of actually drawing them, such as using straight lines, primary colors, black, white, and gray. The ideas for this style were given the name Neoplasticism by Mondrian, where the artist was meant to guide the viewer about what they felt was a true vision of reality. At first, Mondrian didn't use any lines for his Neoplasticism work, and instead just painted rectangles and squares of color on a white canvas. But in 1918, he began to use lines once again, painting strips of horizontal black lines to separate the blocks of color. Not only were his artworks becoming more abstract, but their names were too. Originally, he would say what was depicted in the title, but moved to simply calling them compositions. For his 50th birthday, Mondrian's friends organized an exhibition of his artwork throughout the years at the Stedelijk Museum in Amsterdam. They displayed both his current work and his old traditional landscape paintings, showing his progress as an artist throughout his life. Though Mondrian had reached the ultimate abstraction goal, he still continued his work. He didn't exhibit his work often and rarely held one-man shows. In 1934, Mondrian was encouraged by American artist Ben Nicholson to publish his essay, Plastic Art and Pure Plastic Art. It was published by Circle, an international company, so Mondrian became even more internationally known. His artwork reached his final phase in the 1940s, where he moved to New York City and became inspired by the interlocking buildings and city life. He stopped using just black lines and began to use colored lines instead. Once he grew bored with this, he began to paint smaller squares and rectangles of color, which made horizontal and vertical lines when put together. New York City 1 and Broadway Boogie Woogie were two incredibly popular pieces exhibited in 1943 and 1944. Some interpret the yellow dotted lines as the yellow taxicabs that were iconic in New York City. Mondrian was fond of the neat, rigid architecture, grid-like streets, and the sound of jazz, which he put into his piece, calling it dynamic rhythm. Piet Mondrian passed away on February 1, 1944, due to pneumonia. Mondrian's extremely abstract art had a huge impact on the art world as well as fashion and popular culture. His artwork is still celebrated to this day in schools and art museums around the globe.
If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. Please share it with a fellow art nerd, and if you love receiving quality and free arts education, subscribe.
If you'd like to support the channel and the creation of free arts education, become a member on Patreon for working files, behind-the-scenes posts, and discounts on our class offerings. If you enjoyed this video, here's a couple other videos you can check out next.